"I belong with a man like you," said the Apache girl. Rancher welcomed her in. The sun was slowly dropping behind the wide hills, turning the sky soft orange and pale red. The land was quiet except for the sound of wind brushing over dry grass. This was the kind of evening the rancher knew well. He had lived here most of his life, working the land with steady hands and a calm heart. His days were simple. He woke before sunrise, cared for his animals, fixed fences, and spent long hours under the open sky. He did not talk much, but people who knew him understood he was a good man. He believed in fairness, hard work, and respect. The land had taught him patience, and loneliness had taught him silence. That evening, as he rode his horse along the edge of his property, something felt different. The air was still, but his instincts told him to stay alert. He slowed his horse when he noticed movement near a line of rocks close to the creek. At first, he thought it might be an animal looking for water, but then he saw a human figure. It was a young girl. She stood still, almost blending into the earth around her. Her clothes were worn from travel, and dust clung to her face and hair. Her eyes were sharp and watchful, like someone who had learned to survive by noticing everything. She looked ready to run at the smallest sign of danger. The rancher stopped his horse a few steps away and did not move closer. He understood fear. He knew how sudden movements could turn a quiet moment into panic. He raised one hand slowly, showing he carried no weapon. His voice was calm when he spoke, low and steady, as if talking to the wind itself. He asked if she needed water. The girl did not answer right away. Her eyes studied him. His clothes, his posture, his face. She was young, but there was a strength in her that spoke of hardship and long journeys. After a long pause, she nodded slightly. The rancher carefully dismounted his horse and stepped back, giving her space. He reached for his canteen and placed it on a rock between them before stepping away again. She hesitated, then moved forward, picked it up, and drank slowly. Each sip seemed to ease some of the tension in her body. When she was done, she placed the canteen back where she found it. Neither of them spoke for a moment. The silence was not uncomfortable, just careful. The rancher noticed how thin she was, how tired her shoulders looked. He could tell she had been walking for a long time. Still, he did not ask questions. He had learned that trust was not built with words but with actions. As the light began to fade, the air grew cooler. The rancher knew the nights could be harsh, especially for someone alone. He told her that his ranch was not far. There was food, water, and a place to rest. He made it clear she was not required to come. The choice was hers. He would not force her, and he would not follow if she said no. The girl looked toward the hills, then back at him. Her face showed conflict, but also exhaustion. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was soft but steady. She said she had nowhere else to go. The rancher nodded and mounted his horse again, moving slowly so she could walk beside him if she wished. He did not rush her. They traveled in silence, the sound of footsteps and hooves mixing with the evening breeze. As they approached the ranch, the small house came into view, simple and well-kept. A warm light glowed from the window, and the smell of cooked food lingered in the air. The girl stopped at the edge of the yard. This was another moment of choice. The rancher dismounted again and walked ahead, opening the gate and stepping inside first. He set his hat down, showing her this was a place of peace. Only then did she follow. Inside, the house was modest. There were no signs of wealth, but everything had its place. The rancher poured water into a clean cup and set it on the table. He placed bread and a simple meal nearby. He sat across the room, giving her space. He did not stare. He did not ask her name. He let her eat in quiet. As she ate, some color returned to her face. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. The fear in her eyes did not disappear, but it softened. She looked around, taking in the details, the sturdy furniture, the tools neatly arranged, the quiet order of the place. This was not the home of a careless man. The rancher finally spoke again, telling her she could stay the night. He said he would sleep near the door, and she could rest in the small room by the window. He wanted her to feel safe. Again, he reminded her the choice was hers. She looked at him for a long moment, then gave a small nod. That night, as the ranch grew silent, the rancher lay awake listening to the wind outside. He wondered how such a young girl had ended up alone in such a harsh place. But he did not feel the need to know everything at once. He believed some stories revealed themselves only when they were ready. In the other room, the girl sat by the window looking out at the stars. The sky felt familiar, even though the land was new. For the first time in a long while, she did not feel hunted or lost. She did not fully trust the rancher yet, but something about his quiet respect made her feel seen, not judged. That night marked the beginning of something neither of them could yet name. It was not built on promises or big words, but on small choices, patience, and simple human kindness. Different worlds had crossed paths. not by force but by chance, and in that quiet meeting the first stone of trust had been laid. Morning came slowly to the ranch. The light slipped through the small window and rested gently on the wooden floor. Birds called from the trees, and the soft sounds of animals waking filled the air. The girl opened her eyes and stayed still for a moment, unsure of where she was. Then she remembered the quiet man, the simple house, and the feeling of safety she had not known in a long time. She sat up and looked around the small room. Everything was clean and simple. There was a folded blanket, a chair near the window, and a small shelf with a few books. Nothing felt heavy or threatening. She took a deep breath and stood up. Her body still felt tired, but her mind was clearer than it had been in days. In the main room, the rancher was already awake. He moved calmly, preparing food for the day. When he noticed her standing near the doorway, he did not react suddenly. He only gave a small nod, as if saying good morning, without words. He placed a cup of warm drink on the table and stepped back. She approached slowly and sat down. As she drank, warmth spread through her body. It was a simple thing, but it meant more than he could know. She watched him as he worked. His movements were steady and careful. He did not rush. He did not speak, unless necessary. Everything about him showed control and patience. After breakfast, he told her he needed to tend to the animals. He said she was welcome to stay inside or walk around the yard if she wished. Again, he reminded her that she was free to choose. Those words stayed with her. Freedom had been rare in her life. She decided to step outside. The land stretched wide in every direction. The air smelled of earth and grass. She walked slowly, feeling the ground beneath her feet. It reminded her of places from her past, though this land felt calmer. She watched the rancher from a distance as he worked. He spoke gently to the animals, treating them with care. There was no anger in his voice, no harshness in his hands. As the day passed, she found herself helping in small ways. She carried water, swept the porch, and fed a few animals under his guidance. He did not command her. He only showed her how things were done and let her decide if she wanted to help. Working beside him felt natural. There was no pressure, no fear of making mistakes. They spoke little, but when they did, their words were honest. She told him she was Apache. She did not share much more than that. He accepted it without comment. He did not ask why she was alone or where she had come from. That made her feel respected. At midday, they rested under the shade of a tree. The rancher offered her food and water. She noticed how he always made sure she was comfortable before thinking of himself. That kindness stayed with her. It was not loud or showy. It was quiet and real. As the hours passed, something inside her began to ease. The constant need to be alert slowly faded. She still watched her surroundings, but her shoulders no longer felt tight. The ranch felt like a place where time moved slower, where people were not rushing toward harm. That evening, as the sun began to fall again, the rancher lit a small fire outside. They sat a short distance apart, watching the flames dance. The sky filled with stars, clear and bright. The girl felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of her wanted to stay silent forever, to keep this peace untouched. Another part wanted to speak, to explain the weight she carried. She chose her words carefully and shared small pieces of her story. She spoke of walking long distances, of feeling watched, of learning to trust no one too quickly. She did not speak of pain in detail. She did not need to. The rancher listened without interrupting. His eyes stayed on the fire, but his attention was fully on her. When she finished, he nodded slowly. He told her he understood loneliness. He spoke of losing family and choosing a quiet life over crowded places. He said the land had helped him heal. His voice was steady, but there was truth in it. That night, she slept better than she had in a long time. Days turned into a routine. Mornings were filled with work, afternoons with rest, evenings with quiet talks or shared silence. The girl learned the rhythms of the ranch. She learned where the sun rose and where it fell. She learned the names of the animals and how to care for them. Each task gave her a sense of purpose. The rancher noticed changes in her, too. She stood straighter, her eyes softened. She smiled sometimes, small and careful, but real. He never pushed her to stay longer than she wished. He reminded her often that she could leave whenever she felt ready. But with each passing day, the idea of leaving felt harder. One afternoon, a storm rolled in unexpectedly. The wind grew strong and dark clouds filled the sky. They worked together quickly to secure the animals and close the barn. Rain fell heavy and loud. Inside the house, the sound of rain against the roof wrapped the space in calm. As they sat together, the girl felt a deep sense of safety. The storm outside mirrored the chaos she once carried inside, but now she was sheltered from it. She realized how much she trusted the rancher, not because of promises, but because of consistency. That night, as the storm faded, She stood by the door and looked out at the land. She knew her life had been shaped by movement, by never staying long in one place. But here, for the first time, staying did not feel like being trapped. It felt like being chosen. The rancher joined her, standing a respectful distance away. He said nothing, but his presence was steady. She turned to him and thanked him for his kindness. He replied simply that everyone deserves a safe place. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them. It was not a promise or a declaration. It was understanding. The girl returned to her room that night with a calmer heart. She did not know what the future would bring. She only knew that trust had taken root, quietly and deeply, and for now, that was enough. The days continued to pass, gently, like water flowing without noise. The girl no longer counted time by fear or distance. Instead, she measured her days by the sun rising over the hills and setting behind them again. Life on the ranch had a steady rhythm, and slowly she became part of it. Each morning she woke before the rancher, just as she was used to waking early from her past life. At first she would sit quietly by the window, watching the sky change colors. Then she began helping more on her own. She swept the floor, prepared small meals, and checked on the animals she had grown fond of. The rancher noticed, but never made a big deal of it. He simply thanked her with a nod or a quiet word. That simple appreciation made her feel valued. As she grew more comfortable, her silence slowly began to break. One afternoon, while they were repairing a fence together, she spoke about her people. She talked about the stories she heard as a child, about learning to read the land, the sky, and the wind. She explained how her elders taught respect for nature and patience in all things. Her voice was calm, but there was deep feeling behind every word. The rancher listened carefully. He did not interrupt or question her traditions. Instead, he shared how the land had been his teacher too. He spoke about learning seasons, understanding animals, and accepting that some things cannot be controlled. In that moment, they realized they were not so different after all. Some evenings they sat outside after work sharing quiet conversations. The girl spoke about the strength of her people, but also about the losses they had faced. She did not blame or accuse. She simply spoke the truth as she knew it. The rancher respected that honesty. He told her about his own past, about losing loved ones and choosing a life away from crowded towns. He admitted that silence had once been his shield. Hearing this made the girl see him differently. She had thought of him as a strong man shaped by land and work, but now she saw the weight he carried. It made her trust him more, knowing he understood pain without needing to show it loudly. One day a traveler passed near the ranch. The girl noticed him from a distance and felt old instincts rise in her chest. Her body tensed, ready to run. The rancher noticed immediately. He spoke calmly, telling her she was safe. He stood between her and the stranger, not in a threatening way, but firm and steady. The traveler moved on without trouble, and the quiet returned. That moment stayed with her. She realized that the rancher did not just offer kindness. He offered protection without control. He did not claim ownership of her safety. He simply stood beside her when needed. Later that night, she spoke more openly than ever before. She told him about being alone for a long time, about not knowing where she belonged anymore. She said she felt caught between worlds, unsure of her place. The words came slowly, but once they started, they did not stop. The rancher listened until she finished. Then he told her something simple but powerful. He said belonging was not always about where you came from, but about where you were respected. Those words stayed in her heart. As weeks passed, her confidence grew. She laughed more. She walked with ease across the land. She even began teaching the rancher small things she knew, like reading signs in the earth or understanding animal behavior in deeper ways. He welcomed her knowledge and thanked her for it. Their relationship became a quiet partnership built on learning from each other. One afternoon, they worked together planting seeds near the house. As they knelt in the soil, the girl spoke about the future. She said planting was an act of hope. The rancher agreed. He said every seed was a promise, not of certainty, but of possibility. That evening, as they watched the sunset, the girl felt a strong emotion rise inside her. It was not fear or sadness. It was clarity. She realized she no longer felt lost. For the first time, she felt seen, not as someone passing through, but as someone who mattered. Still, doubt lingered. She wondered if this peace could last. She wondered if the world would allow such quiet happiness. These thoughts stayed with her at night, when the stars filled the sky and the land fell silent. One night, she could not sleep. She stepped outside and found the rancher sitting near the fence, looking at the stars. She joined him, and they sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she spoke. She said she feared losing this place, this feeling. She said she did not want to return to a life of running. The rancher answered honestly. He said nothing in life was guaranteed, but some things were worth choosing every day. He said she did not owe him anything, not her past, not her future. He told her she was free to stay, free to leave, free to decide who she wanted to be. Those words touched her deeply. Freedom, respect, and care all in one place. She realized how rare that was. As the moon rose high, she looked at him and felt gratitude fill her heart. She did not speak her deeper feelings yet. She was not ready. But something inside her had already chosen. The bond between them had grown stronger, not through grand gestures, but through shared work, honest words, and quiet understanding. They had become part of each other's lives without forcing it, without fear. That night, as she returned to her room, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. The path ahead was still unknown, but she no longer faced it alone. The land, the ranch, and the man who welcomed her had become something more than a shelter. They had become a place where her heart could finally rest. Change came quietly at first, like a shadow moving at the edge of the land. The girl felt it before she could explain it. The air no longer felt as light as it once had. Some mornings she woke with a heavy feeling in her chest, as if the past was slowly catching up to her. Even though the ranch still felt safe, the world outside it did not stop moving. One afternoon, while the rancher was fixing a broken gate, the girl noticed dust rising far away. Riders were moving across the land, not close enough to cause trouble, but close enough to be seen. Her body reacted before her mind did. Her hands tightened and her breath became shallow. Old memories stirred inside her, memories of being watched and judged, of being told where she belonged without being asked. The rancher noticed her fear right away. He followed her gaze and saw the distant movement. He stayed calm, just as he always did. He told her there was no danger at the moment, but he understood why she felt uneasy. He suggested they finish their work early and stay closer to the house that day. That evening, the girl was unusually quiet. She helped prepare food but barely ate. Her thoughts were loud, pulling her in different directions. She knew she could not hide from the world forever. The peace she had found on the ranch felt real, but she wondered if it was temporary. She wondered if she was only borrowing safety, not building a future. After the meal, she finally spoke. Her voice was low but steady. She said people from her past might be looking for her. She explained that there were expectations placed on her, paths chosen for her without her consent. She said she had run not because she hated her people, but because she wanted the right to choose her own life. The rancher listened carefully. He did not react with fear or anger. He asked her one simple question. He asked what she wanted now. That question stayed in the air between them. The girl struggled to answer. She said she wanted peace. She wanted dignity. She wanted a life where she could wake up without fear and sleep without regret. She said the ranch felt like the first place where those things were possible. But she was afraid that choosing this life might mean losing her connection to where she came from. The rancher told her something honest and gentle. He said choosing a new path did not erase the old one. He said a person could honor their roots while still growing in a new direction. He reminded her that no one had the right to decide her future but her. Still, the pressure grew. A few days later, visitors came closer than before. They did not enter the ranch, but their presence was clear. The girl recognized them from a distance. Her heart pounded. The past was no longer just a memory. It was standing near the edge of her present. At night, she could not stay silent any longer. She stood near the fire, her hands shaking slightly, and finally spoke the words she had been holding inside her for weeks. She told the rancher that staying with him had shown her what respect felt like. She told him that his kindness was not weakness, but strength. Then, with courage she did not know she had, she said the words that had been forming in her heart. She said she belonged with a man like him. The words were simple, but they carried deep meaning. She did not say them out of desperation. She said them with clarity. She meant that she belonged in a place where she was seen, where her voice mattered, where her life was her own. The rancher was silent for a long moment. The fire cracked softly between them. He looked at her with care, not surprise. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm but emotional. He told her that hearing those words meant more to him than she could know. But he also told her something important. He said he would never be the reason she turned away from her truth. He said her choice had to come from freedom, not fear, and not gratitude. He told her that if she chose to stay, it would be as an equal, not as someone being sheltered. Those words touched her deeply. The next day, the people from her past finally approached the ranch. The rancher stepped forward to meet them, standing firm but respectful. The girl stood beside him, not behind. She did not hide. She did not run. For the first time, she faced them with calm strength. There were tense moments. Voices were raised, but no harm followed. The girl spoke for herself. She said she was safe. She said she was choosing her own path. She did not reject her people, but she made it clear that her life was no longer something others could control. The rancher said little, but his presence said enough. He did not claim her. He did not argue ownership. He simply supported her right to decide. Eventually, the visitors left. They did not agree with her choice, but they could not deny her strength. The land grew quiet again, but something had changed. The girl felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had finally been set down. That night, she and the rancher sat together under the open sky. The stars seemed brighter than ever. She thanked him not for protecting her, but for trusting her to speak for herself. He told her she had always been stronger than she realized. She knew then that whatever the future held, she was no longer running. She had faced her past and spoken her truth. Whether she stayed on the ranch forever or chose another path one day, the choice would be hers. The bond between them had been tested, and it had held firm, not because of force or promises, but because of respect. As the fire burned low, the girl felt a deep sense of peace. The world had tried to pull her in different directions, but she had stood her ground, and in doing so she had found her voice. The ranch was still the same, the land had not changed, but she had, and that made all the difference.